who will serve as our parliamentarian for this evening. Do we have a visual for Dr. Hoppy? Thank you. This is a formal business meeting and it will be governed by parliamentary rules and usages contained in the current edition of Robert's Rules of Order. Thank you, Dr. Hoppy. Dr. Flanagan, could you please confirm that we have a quorum?
Dr. Gettler, we have a quorum.
All right, at this time, I'm going to ask that we adopt the 2020 annual business meeting agenda. A poll is going to be launched to facilitate the vote. Thank you. Thank you.
We're losing Michelle's.
We will need your vote for these minutes. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Dr. Carol Vandenacker Albanese to provide the membership report.
Thank you, Michelle. So we are going to start here with the membership breakdown. And as you can see on your screen, the majority of our members, which is now over 10,000 total, are fellow members, followed by resident, medical students, seniors, associates, and then a few of the various other categories that we have. You can see we have had continued growth over the years. There is a little drop off this year at the very tail end of that rise, and that's due to the delay in the Part 2 certification exam given by the Board of PM&R, which occurred in the fall this year, and so we did not have newly board certified members added yet for this year. So you see a little bit of a delay there. Otherwise, we're continuing to grow as we have over previous years. You should have in your handouts the membership roster report. It's multiple pages, so we're not going to show you all the names, but it includes all the various members that will need to be voted on. And these include everything from the students and residents to the new associates and fellows, as well as fellows going to senior fellows. So hopefully everybody's had a chance to look that over, and we will go into our vote on that roster, and we will have a poll launched here in just a minute. All right. So we'll give you just a minute to get your votes in. And all right, looks like we have approval coming in. So let's go on. All right, it's been presented for approval. There we go. We would also like to recognize our 25-year members, and we actually have several slides listing those. Total of about, little over 180 members that have been with us for 25 years, so congratulations. And we would also like to remember those of our members that we lost in this past year. As you can see on your screen, they certainly will be missed. And that concludes the membership report. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Flanagan will now present the AAPM&R bylaw amendment recommendations.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Gittler. And if I can have the next slide. Okay, so first up is a bylaw amendment recommendation regarding the nomination committee composition. So in keeping with the Academy's commitment to improve the nominating process for the slate of elected officials, which we'll be voting on soon, the Board of Governors is recommending the addition of the Executive Director of the Academy to the nominating committee as an ex officio and non-voting member. We feel it's an important and unique value to have the executive director provide to this process a perspective from a broad scope of understanding the commitment to the mission and vision of the Academy, the initiatives and strategies that we're engaged in, and the skill sets that are needed to address the future challenges that the Academy, our members, and our field will be facing now and in the future. So in here, this is what we're proposing to change. It's all in red. So we are increasing or proposing an increase from 5 to 6 members. The new 6th member will be the Academy's Executive Director, who will serve again as an ex officio and non-voting member for the reasons that I had mentioned in the previous slide. So I believe the next slide will show that we have a poll vote coming up. And there we are. If we can go ahead and vote. We still have quite a few votes coming in. We'll give it just a little bit more time. We have about half of the votes in. Votes are still coming in. And if you haven't voted, please submit your vote. All right, and we have the results there. Okay. And if we can go to the next amendment recommendation. So in keeping again with our commitment to diversity and inclusion, the bylaws were revised officially by our members exactly 2 years ago at our business meeting at the Academy to transition to gender neutral language. 2 chairman references were inadvertently left out of the 28 transition to this gender neutral language. So the Board of Governors recommends amending the bylaws to complete the transition to gender neutral language that we had approved actually 2 years ago. And the next slide. So again, looking at it just concretely, these are the 2 changes. This again refers to the nominating committee, ironically enough. So we're changing the 2 references to chairman just to chair. If we can go to the next slide. So before you now is the gender neutral language and for our vote. And we can go ahead and vote again.
We'd like to call for discussion before voting. The motion already came from the committee. Okay.
Okay, and we have our results. And it passes. Okay, thank you very much.
Hello. I'm Peter Esselman. It was my honor to chair the nominating committee.
I'm happy to present. I was going to say I'm happy to present Dr. Peter Esselman, the chair of the nominating committee and our past president.
Thank you, Michelle. It was my honor to chair the nominating committee this year. And I want to start off by thanking the members of the committee who really worked very hard. We spent a lot of time reflecting on the needs of the board and of the Academy, reviewed a long list of potential candidates for positions, interviewed the final candidates, and are recommending the following individuals. For Vice President, recommending Dr. Steve Flanagan. Secretary, Dr. Amy Houtrow. Member at Large, Dr. Carrie Reed, to fill her second term as Member at Large. Member at Large, Dr. Lisa Merritt. And Member at Large, Dr. David Pruitt. There is one non-board elected position, a member of the nominating committee, and we're recommending Dr. Lisa Pasquale. To remind everybody of the presidential line, in addition to the vice president candidate joining the presidential line, the 2021 presidential line will be composed of Dr. Stuart Weinstein, who current president-elect, who will automatically ascend from president-elect to become our next president, and Dr. Deborah Vennessy, who will automatically ascend from vice president to president-elect. So on behalf of the nominating committee, making the recommendation to approve the slate of candidates. Give a little more time for you to vote. Some votes are still coming in. Very good. Thank you very much. That is the report of the nominating committee.
Thank you very much. I did want to clarify that a question was raised about motions. These were already voted on and vetted, and motions made at the committee level and are brought forward. So thank you, though, for your questions. The vote was approval. I'm delighted to give my president report. At the end of any given year, it's easy to measure or recap many of our accomplishments, such as the number of members we have, the members that have participated in a town hall, the volunteers who spent hours away from friends and family, the webinars we've had, the CMS advocacy, medical education opportunity, and the number of physiatrists and physiatrists-to-be who are actually participating in this meeting. What's harder to capture is who we are and how we are evolving. It's pretty comfortable to talk about diversity and inclusion in many ways. We all know that having more voices makes us not only more credible as the organization that represents physiatrists, but more successful as an organization as we embrace multiple viewpoints and engage the experiences and creativity of as many physiatrists as possible. We could leave it at that and feel pretty good about diversity and inclusion. We could say that we're an organization that's always embraced diversity in our practice. After all, we still haven't come up with a tight elevator speech that sums up the breadth of all we do in a way that people can understand. We're an organization that has always served a diverse group of patients, from elite athletes to children born with disabling conditions, and everything in between. And when we focus on this, we are obviously an organization of physicians that embraces and cares for a diverse and inclusive population. And maybe we even pat ourselves on the back. At the risk of letting everybody get comfortable, I feel the need to acknowledge that we are still experiencing the fallout of the most contentious election ever held in the United States. Most of you know how I tilt politically. Those of you that really know me know that I am distraught at the divisiveness, anger, and inability or unwillingness to focus on the inequalities that still have to be solved for. This is the discussion that cannot be captured in a slideshow. This is the discussion that we need to put into words the journey of dissolving barriers and creating a truly inclusive, and receptive space for differing opinions and viewpoints. It's about challenging ourselves to explicitly acknowledge that we do not live in an equitable system, about challenging ourselves to acknowledge that an inequitable system is an unjust one. And if it is unjust, it must be changed. It is about acknowledging that I may not have all the answers, and you may not either. But we have to work together to understand what the best answers for not just some or most, but for everyone today and in the future might be. I am hopeful that we can agree that the terms diversity and inclusion do not necessarily address racial justice and social equity. If we are really going to talk about social determinants of health, we will be talking about a number of issues that make people uncomfortable. We will be talking about racism, ableism, sexism, capitalism, homophobia, and transphobia. We will be talking about how our society treats persons with intellectual disability. And we must talk about access to healthcare, housing, education, childcare, and jobs. We cannot imagine a different future unless we keep in mind our past. In our not too distant past, we demonized individuals who had AIDS, and when I was in medical school, it was a death sentence. But we recognize that we can't turn our back on a vulnerable population. People marched together, calling out the need for change. And by working together, we have fundamentally changed what happens to people with HIV. We have programs that educate the public, programs that create more equitable access to interventions that enable people to live full lives. And this same kind of blueprint can work with other historically excluded populations. We say that we care about social determinants of health. If we want to give more than lip service to that, we need to understand that most determinants of health have nothing to do with accessing the healthcare system, but everything to do with the communities and environments in which people work, live, and play. It does have to do with historical constructs that are very difficult to digest. We are going to move into a space with no playbook, no best practices, and no quick and easy solutions. I've told you that at Passover, my people tell our children over and over again that it may not be our responsibility alone to fix the broken world, but we are not free to avoid participating in that work. So why am I talking about this at our business meeting? I believe that we as physiatrists can be a critical part of the national dialogue on healthcare equity, not only for those who access health care, but those who would access a career as a physician. I am looking toward our future. As we imagine the future, it will be disrupting for some, but I'm looking forward to disruption. I am looking forward to cultivating a specialty that holds our society to a higher standard, that really means it when we talk about accessibility. Because what is accessibility if it is not creating an equitable experience? How do we focus on this without distracting from our mission? Luckily, we don't have to choose one or the other. This focus will make our mission stronger. The mission of the Academy is to lead the advancement of physiatry's impact throughout healthcare. by understanding that an equitable system really does mean access for all, and by understanding that health extends far beyond the hospital or physician visit, we can be more impactful and more effective as physiatrists. William Osler said, "The good physician treats the disease, the great physician treats the patient who has the disease." And in physiatry, don't we always say that we treat the whole person? And isn't that what all the students say on their personal statements? That they want to go into rehabilitation because we treat the whole person. If we are going to treat the whole person, we are going to look at social determinants of health. That means we are going to address issues of exclusion and inequity. We need to be willing to say that as a culture, as a society, as individuals, we have practiced exclusion, whether it's because of the color of someone's skin, physical or intellectual ability, who you happen to vote for in this election, economic status, the gender persons are assigned at birth, their sexual identity, religion, or whether they put ketchup or mustard on their hot dog. And by the way, ketchup is wrong. We have practiced exclusion. We are going to address questions about the disparities faced by many individuals. In Harry Potter, Hermione observes that fear of a name only increases our fear of the thing. So I will call out that we all have to discuss racism. This is not about accusing persons of being racist, but acknowledging that our current infrastructure marginalizes and excludes many persons. If our goal is to optimize the health of everyone, then we really need to understand the past medical and social history before we move ahead with our assessment and plan. I look forward to being more present for the confounding issues as we boldly move our specialty and healthcare forward. And let me say again, thank you to the many people who have gone on walks and talks with me, to those of you that will go on a walk with me, to the staff, your superhuman power appears to be able to take something that never existed before, and in a few months, we do not do without. It's been a bold year, not only for the Board of Governors, but also the members. This is our Board of Governors. A special thank you to our departing, that is, our moving on board members, Dr. Peter Esselman as our past president, Dr. Charlotte Smith as member at large, Dr. Armando Misiano, Stu Glassman, and Annie Purcell for their leadership. I'd like to thank all of the volunteers. If I were to name everybody, we'd be here forever and you would boo me off this platform. But for those volunteers who've participated in committee work and task forces, those on the Fit Council, the editors of the Physiatrist, the Bold Steering Committee members, the editors and reviewers for the PM&R Journal and Knowledge Now, those who have served as liaisons and representatives, the community chair members and delegates, the Future Leader Program participants, all of the faculty, all of the abstract reviewers, and all of the expert content reviewers, and the many, many more volunteers. Thank you. Thank you to the more than 600 volunteers who have supported our initiatives in 2020. I'd like to introduce Dr. Scott Laker to present the Treasurer's Report.
Thank you, Michelle. It's been a great honor to represent this organization, which I believe so strongly in. We'll be reviewing initially our 2019 audit. As you can see, our 2019 budget versus our 2019 audited revenue and expenses. Our audit looks at our total net income, which is what we refer to as below the line, because we are not budgeting for our investments, but we do capture our temporarily restricted funds. The Academy focuses on the operating net income, that third line from the top, as our day-to-day financial measure. The 2019 audit went smoothly. No management letter was issued, so otherwise a clean audit. So in 2019, our operating net income was $197,000. Add to that the large investment gains at the end of 2019 and the temporarily restricted funds for the journal in the final year of the REMS installment grant, our total net income was $2.25 million. The key variance drivers in the operating net income was a higher than expected educational product portfolio and the changes in our personnel vacancies. Next, looking at months in reserve, the Academy's policy is to strictly maintain at least 6 months in reserves, but we have a goal of maintaining at least 1 year's worth of reserves. As you can see, it's calculated in months in reserve are in the boxes above each bar. So for 2018, if the slide is too small, it's 14.5, and then 2019 audited was 15.41. You can see an uptick in 2017 and 2019 that was primarily due to investment performance. So when we think of our reserves, we are making the assumption as an organization that we are paying our debts. So we exclude that from the months in reserve calculation. So each column represents our total fund balance for the year, which is calculated as total assets. For us, that's our checking account cash plus intermediate and long-term investments, minus liabilities, minus our net fixed assets or accumulated depreciation. We also separate out the net property and equipment because that's an illiquid asset. This is our 2020 projected budget in the left-hand column and our 2020 forecast. This has been a challenging year for us all. It's been no different at the organizational level. Both our revenues and our expenses have contracted. The key impacts for the Academy are the inability to really provide in-person education, which has pulled the revenue down, but it has saved on our travel expenses. Our corporate support is down, as you would expect, as their budgets have contracted, and some of our projects have been strategically delayed for the time being. The 2021 budget is a work in progress. As I mentioned, it's been a challenging year. This budget is not final. Our expectation is that there will be continued declines in revenue. The mitigations that we have in place, we do have a PPP loan, or we qualified for a PPP loan, but we're unknown if that will be forgiven. The annual assembly has meeting insurance, but the dollar coverage for that amount is unknown. Additionally, we secured a line of credit at the beginning of the pandemic, and depending on how things evolve, the Academy's months in reserve will likely look different in the future, especially if we need to draw these down. Those are the largest changes that we see moving forward, and obviously we continue to look at this consistently within our committee structure.
Thank you. I'm delighted to introduce now Dr. Jana Friedley, our editor-in-chief for the journal PM&R.
Great. Thank you so much. I am really pleased to be able to present an update of what's been happening at the journal this year. As you all know, this is a team effort, and the success of the journal really hinges on the participation of the editors, the staff, and all of the authors and reviewers. So we have a fantastic group of senior editors. I think since the last time that I presented, we have added two new senior editors, Priya Chandan and Adam 1040. And my continued and ongoing thanks to Kathy Mendelson, who is our managing editor and keeps everything together for us. We have a number of feature editors. Many of these are returning from last year. We have also added Dr. Sandell as our history editor. And Dr. Gary Goldberg as a point counterpoint editor since last year, as well as Monique Mogeson as a new images editor. We have a large team of associate editors, over 60 associate editors, and I really appreciate all of the hard work that they do. They volunteer their time, and they really help to make sure that our reviews are done on a timely basis and are equitable and transparent. So I really appreciate all of their efforts. Just to highlight some things from this year, we are in our 12th year of publication. We have had a dramatic increase in the number of submissions, which is fantastic. We have really focused on diversity and inclusion, and we have agreed to make all workplace equity focused manuscripts open access so that people can readily access these important manuscripts. And we have expedited publication of COVID and telemedicine content, and I'll share a little bit more about that. This year, we also launched a new app that's available on smartphones. And we continue to publish Cochrane Corners, which are brief summaries of Cochrane reviews that are rehab related. As I mentioned, we've had a tremendous increase in the growth of submissions. This is part of the evolution of the journal, but in the last couple of years in particular, we have really seen a dramatic increase in submissions, and a lot of this is related to international submissions, which has been a focus of mine since I started. We've also seen an increase in downloads, from year over year. So from 2020 to in 2020, we saw an increase in downloads compared to 2019. You can also see when you look at the monthly trend that we had a significant uptake of downloads in April or so. I think that this year in particular, that was related to COVID and people being at home and downloading more articles at the time. But we're seeing an overall increase that is maintaining even now. We have looked at our top 10 most downloaded articles. This is a list here of those. 5 out of the top 10 most downloaded articles have been related to COVID and telemedicine. So I really want to thank the authors for submitting these manuscripts to PM&R. I think they've been incredibly helpful for people as we have had to really transition how we care for our patients. So thank you to the authors for these important manuscripts. I'm also very pleased to announce this year's Editor's Choice Awards. We have a Foundation for PM&R and joint PM&R Journal Best Original Research Award. This year we have given that award to Dr. Debbie Crane and her team. The study is entitled Pregnancy Outcomes in Women with Spinal Cord Injuries, a population-based study. Our Best Young Investigator Research Award was given to Dr. Laura Malmut, and it was entitled Simulation-Based Education for Urgent Medical Complications Common to the Rehab Setting, an educational program for PM&R residents. And our best original international submission, original research, was written by Dr. Stevens and his team in Australia called Feasibility, Validity, and Responsiveness of Self-Report and Objective Measures of Physical Activity in Patients with Chronic Pain. So looking ahead to 2021, what do we have in store? I am really pleased to share that we have 3 special supplements that we are planning for this upcoming year. One is a white paper that is really looking at the role of physiatry throughout the healthcare continuum, looking at lessons learned from the COVID pandemic that Dr. Weinstein is guest editing. And then we have a supplement that is focused on health equity and one that is also focused on ICU rehabilitation. We continue to increase our social media presence, so I encourage you to look at our website, join us on Facebook and Twitter. And I just want to thank everybody for all of your ongoing support for the journal.
Thank you, Dr. Friedli. I'd now like to introduce our Executive Director and CEO, Tom Stotzenbach.
Good, thank you. It's first and foremost, it's a continued honor to serve the specialty and the Academy. And I want to thank the board and all the volunteers that dedicate their time, not only for the work you do, but for the teamwork and partnership you put in with our staff team, who greatly enjoy working with you. And thanks to the entire staff team, very dedicated team, back in our virtual Rosemont and virtual DC office. Let me give a few quick updates, and then we're going to do something a little different this year. Just a couple quick updates on this virtual assembly. The benchmark datas are a little different, but let's just talk about what we're doing, how we're doing to date. We have about a total participation so far, about 3,800 individuals. That's across registrations, exhibitors, 3,700. It's across registration, exhibitors, and everything. Typically, we have about 3,800, but that includes a lot more exhibitors. So when you peel back those numbers, we have currently, and they're still coming in, and they will continue to come in through the next couple of days, we have 2,800 paid registrants, and that's actually our largest annual assembly ever. And if you peel that back further, we have nearly 2,000 active members, which is 20% higher than the previous records in terms of active members. Then you have your non-members and your residents and your medical students. On top of that, we had over 400 medical students register for the Sunday medical student program. So overall, the objective of really putting on a virtual program that allowed as much to get out and allows large portions of our membership to engage in this assembly has been successful, and we continue to look forward to the upticks over the next couple of days. Lastly, before we kind of look back at 2020, I just want to say is that we know that, as you would imagine, that 2021 is going in the years following are really going to be we're expecting a firestorm of significant issues that are going to come out of this public health crisis. Some of those complications and complexities have already started. Some of the controversies over the 2021 proposed physician fee schedule that we're working on right now have some issues that are impacting it related to COVID, the pandemic. Some things that we can project in the future that will be coming. For instance, we see on the horizon many more scope of practice challenges that are going to arise out of the current situation. And there's those things that we can't even predict at the moment that we know are going to take shape coming out of this pandemic. So we thank everyone for your continued support of the specialty and working through the Academy, that we have a strong unified voice together. So in the past, I'd go through a long series of slides to talk about what we accomplished in 2020. This year, since 2020's a different year, we decided to put together a video to capture where our time and attention has been focused this past year. If we can go ahead with the video.
Hi, I'm Dr. Michelle Gittler, President of the American Academy of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation, and I have the Presidential Medal to prove it. For over 75 years, the AAPM&R is where PM&R physicians have come together. Academy members access this valuable PM&R community to build their network, for educational resources across all career stages, advocacy efforts to influence the future of the specialty, and opportunities to advance their practice to position themselves for success. Our community is shaping the future of physiatry, and we are stronger when we act together.
Hello, I'm Tom Stotzenbach, Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the American Academy of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation. The Academy is an organization like no other. We are the leading medical association focused on advancing the practice of PM&R across all clinical areas and practice settings. We are a community of thought leaders who advocate for PM&R physicians and your patients. We are a provider of cutting-edge learning opportunities and much more. The Academy is dedicated to advancing the physiatric approach of optimizing function, performance, and rehabilitation outcomes with a clear focus on specialty advancement and the success of every member.
2020 has been an unprecedented year, but our PM&R community has pulled together to face these unique challenges. We continue to recognize the clinical, practice, and institutional obstacles that you have experienced throughout this year, and we want to continue to serve the specialty, bringing physiatrists together now and for the future of PM&R. As we reflect on the difficult lessons during this past year and look to the future, we stay strong in our commitment to advancing your bold vision, advancing our future.
The diverse perspectives of our PM&R community all work within the Academy towards our shared mission to lead the advancement of physiatry's impact throughout healthcare. PM&R physicians are essential to healthcare, and the Academy will continue to work towards advancing, documenting, and building recognition of the value of our community. In 2020, we moved several initiatives forward to advance the specialty. This 2020 annual report video will provide insights on these initiatives and how these efforts have laid the groundwork to continue our commitment in 2021. As we look ahead to next year, we will continue to support you by providing resources for community building, ongoing education, advocacy, and practice and career development.
Together, the specialty of PM&R boldly discussed its future. Together, we envision new practice models and areas of opportunity to expand the impact of our care. Now, we're working to advance the specialty, focused on action to make the vision for physiatry a reality. Our membership is working to advance PM&R Bold through game plans. Our peers developed the envisioned future and strategic plan for pain management and spine rehabilitation, adding this as a fifth practice area. Data. Recruiting early adopters into AAPM&R's registry to collect ischemic stroke and low back pain data to harness traditional EMR data with patient-reported outcomes data, which our registry accurately and efficiently captures. Branding. Our Specialty Brand Expansion Committee focused their 2020 efforts on the creation of grassroots materials and an eye to the future of influencing awareness of PM&R across healthcare stakeholders. Training. The Medical Education Committee has made supporting the needs of members in training, in fellowship, and in practice a key focus in order to meet the vision for our specialty. Work groups have been focused on developing core curriculum and training frameworks for the future. Workforce. Our focus is on a physiatry-led, patient-centered, team-based care. This year, volunteers gathered in work groups to discuss several workforce impacts and define our role in new settings. Advocacy. Whether it be advocating for PM&R's role in upcoming payment models or fighting scope of practice expansion battles to defend your role as the indispensable healthcare leaders in directing rehabilitation and recovery. AAPM&R's advocacy efforts remain a focal point of advancing PM&R Bold. Collaboration. PM&R Bold has always been driven by member input and experiences. Continue to learn and collaborate by visiting Phys Forum.
2020 has been the year no one expected, but that everyone will remember. The COVID-19 global pandemic has changed the world, not to mention how we practice medicine and support our patients. So many challenges and obstacles emerged, but PM&R physicians rose to the task. Throughout the pandemic, we have grown to become an even more collaborative society than we were before. The power of collaboration is strong within the Academy, and we are the reason. Throughout the spring and summer, we came together to create resources to aid our community. Despite the challenges of working virtually, you helped create the resources that your peers needed most. Take a look at some examples below of the valuable efforts we moved forward together. Dedicated web content. AAPM&R created the COVID-19 Physiatrist Member Support and Resource Center to keep us updated on the latest news and provide us in-depth resources created for physiatrists. New dedicated forum for member-to-member support. AAPM&R created the Care in the Time of COVID-19 forum on Phys Forum to help members share their experiences, challenges, and advice. More than 500 of us participated on Phys Forum across all forums this year. Hosted 20 plus COVID-19 specific webinars. AAPM&R held more than 20 webinars as an opportunity for us to hear from other physiatrist members and experts across healthcare on their experiences and ask them questions. More than 1,300 of us attended across March through July. New physiatrist-specific resources. AAPM&R developed timely educational resources based on member feedback. Concentrated advocacy efforts. AAPM&R advocated for the federal support, legislation, regulatory relief, and resources that we needed at the time we most needed them. Here's just a small sample of the advocacy efforts during the COVID-19 pandemic created by our Academy and in partnership with other specialty societies. Graduate medical education-focused support. AAPM&R created a forum specifically for program directors to allow them to discuss their unique challenges in trying to form their residency program virtual curriculum, along with assistance for residents such as access to educational resources.
Thousands of PM&R physicians have found value, confidence, and power in the Academy of PM&R's community. Community is the basis for everything offered to the membership, providing spaces for us to learn, network, and advance our careers, while fostering a sense of belonging across all backgrounds and areas of expertise. One of the opportunities to meet a diverse group of PM&R physicians is through member communities, which allow us to connect with fellow physiatrists across the country in clinical, practice, and identity-focused communities. AAPM&R offers more than 40 member communities, and about 5,000 of us are involved in at least one of them. Throughout the summer, physiatrist members across the country pivoted their practice due to COVID-19. Several members shared stories of working in your communities, helping treat COVID-19 patients, and innovative ideas you have advanced and more. We as members are making a difference in our communities and our specialty. AAPM&R's commitment to community is the pillar of the brand. In 2020, the following opportunities were created to help us come together with our peers. Virtual town halls with our Board of Governors, a pediatric rehabilitation lecture series, which included more than 20 educational webinars, a summit for PM&R department chairs and division chiefs to discuss the rapidly evolving and increasingly complex environment they work in, and a research work group of member volunteers who had valuable dialogues about the research opportunities available during COVID-19 and how that research can take place.
AAPM&R's advocacy provides what individual PM&R physicians cannot easily do alone, and we are stronger when we work together to influence the trajectory of PM&R in healthcare and help advance the future of the specialty. Our Academy is fighting scope of practice expansions that threaten patient safety and PM&R physician practices, tracking and influencing state and federal legislation and health policy issues, and advocating on behalf of all members and positioning PM&R physicians as essential leaders across the healthcare continuum. AAPM&R led multiple efforts to advocate against the CMS proposal that would allow non-physician practitioners, NPPs, to perform any of the inpatient rehabilitation facility or IRF coverage service and documentation duties that are required to be performed by a rehabilitation physician, which resulted in a big win for physiatry. By bringing together the unified voice of 2,377 PM&R physicians, 122 patient advocacy organizations, state and medical specialties, and prestigious IRF hospitals, as well as 97 of our patients, and gaining support from key congressional offices, we successfully defeated this CMS proposal that would have had a detrimental impact on patient care, the specialty, and the future of inpatient rehabilitation. Team Physiatry's success is driven by all of us. Thank you for being a PM&R advocate. We are aware that even though this is a major win for our specialty, it has not fully closed the door to future scope of practice concerns in the coming years. By working with and welcoming multidisciplinary team members, our Academy optimizes the role of the PM&R physician and extends the opportunities and influence of PM&R physicians and the specialty. That's why AAPM&R continues to work with stakeholders and actively asserting that physiatry-led, patient-centered, team-based care is essential to providing optimized medical rehabilitation care for patients. Throughout the year, our Academy tracked and influenced legislative, regulatory, and policy issues, participating in more than 25 coalitions to advocate on behalf of members and positioning PM&R practitioners as leaders in the future of healthcare. In 2020, AAPM&R has been pushing ahead, setting the agenda for the specialty at large and positioning PM&R at the forefront. This position statement was released to combat the inappropriate use of the specialty's name and protect those seeking care from the spread of misinformation about the specialty. CMS proposed an almost 11% cut to the conversion factor, which determines payment for services, and therefore AAPM&R is strongly advocating against this proposal. AAPM&R has long advocated to reduce burden for PM&R physicians by streamlining administrative documentation. CMS decided to remove the post-admission physician evaluation documentation requirement in its finalized IRF prospective payment system rule for 2021, which is a big win. CMS's decision to remove the PAPE is a direct result of our ongoing advocacy. Our Academy's efforts have resulted in new office and outpatient evaluation and management code descriptors, documentation guidelines, and increased relative value units, or RVUs, which will go into effect on January 1st, 2021.
Members of the Inclusion and Engagement and Diversity and Inclusion committees have been collaborating this year to create our Principles of Inclusion and Engagement, which further advances our diversity and inclusion strategic goals and initiatives. Our Academy is committed to embracing diverse backgrounds and perspectives of those with whom we work and serve, and creating space for the difficult conversations. These principles include valuing diverse group composition. And that entails recognizing a diverse group that is more representative of our overall membership composition can result in enhanced group outcomes. Volunteers can be selected as a member of a particular community to advance diversity of thought and experiences, but they should not view their role as a member for that community. Instead, they represent the entirety of PM&R. Mutual respect, demonstrating respect for differing opinions and viewpoints, cultivating a receptive space for differing opinions and viewpoints. Talent and skill-based selection for leadership opportunities, ensuring that broad criteria of diversity of experience, talent, and knowledge are incorporated. Removing barriers to involvement to further support an equitable environment to assure that all future leaders have the opportunity to contribute where needed. Comprehensive collaboration. Building community between various member constituents is essential as a physiatric member association. Bringing different perspectives together will enhance innovative thinking and achievement. Critical conversations on equity, access, and inclusion in PM&R, healthcare, and society. Members were asked for feedback on advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion within our community. From listening to these insights, our Academy kicked off the Critical Conversation webinar series in July with understanding the African American physiatrist experience. Please look forward to engaging in these valuable conversations.
Decision making demands data, factual evidence that your skills and services improve your patients' outcomes and are deserving of an institution's referral or a payer's reimbursement. You asked for data to prove your value, and AAPM&R answered. The accurate documentation of rehabilitation through data involves all of PM&R, and the effort is being led through the registry. Together with member volunteers and technical expertise, AAPM&R developed and refined the architecture to collect the specific data points we need to seamlessly and effortlessly prove our value as physiatrists. Using a unique framework which harnesses traditional EMR data with patient-reported outcomes data, the registry accurately and efficiently captures essential data, transforming it into real-world evidence through smart analytics and intuitive, flexible reports. This year, our registry welcomes 6 early adopters as of September 2020, organizations that are committed to quality improvement through clinical and patient-reported data collection in both ischemic stroke and low back pain. This started off with these 2 areas, but plan to expand soon, knowing PM&R impacts outcomes for many other patient populations. Our early adapters and bold strategic areas will help us decide which areas to focus on next. To encourage other practices and institutions to participate, AAPM&R hosted a series of critical conversations to engage with members on the need and importance for PM&R to define what quality care means to the specialty.
AAPM&R plays a critical role in our success every day. PM&R physician members are supported through practice and career advancement resources that create everyday value for us and help position us for success in the future. Member volunteers are stepping up as PM&R leaders are driving the specialty forward. The Specialty Brand Expansion Committee has been focused on developing grassroots marketing support for members and creating strategies to increase PM&R's brand value with key stakeholders, primary care and hospital healthcare administrators. The grassroots marketing support in 2020 has included helping refresh PM&R knowledge now by creating patient-facing content and PDFs on conditions and treatments that members can distribute to their patients. These templates cover a wide variety of clinical topics, along with an explanation of what PM&R is and what makes PM&R physicians unique. Your career is our specialty. 2020 has thrown us curveballs left and right, but AAPM&R's support for us has stayed constant. They recognize that advancing our career is a priority, which is why there are continued improvements in the resources offered to us. The Job and Fellowship Board, new positions are regularly added. Browse the board to see what's available or post your job opening. The Job and Fellowship Fair, offered virtually this year on November 13th. You'll be able to connect with a variety of companies across the country. PM&R Journal. New research is published monthly and sent to our mailboxes. The PM&R Journal has several successes this year, including more than a 20% increase in manuscript submissions, a new mobile app, 4 new senior editors who joined the editorial board, and more. The Physiatrist, the official membership newsletter delivered to our mailboxes, which contains the latest career resources and job openings. Career Corner, our monthly professional development e-newsletter designed to help connect you to your dream job. Helping early career members transition into practice. Early career PM&R physicians face unique challenges as they navigate new work responsibilities and juggle work-life balance. The Early Career Pathways is offered as a special membership option for those graduating from residency and fellowship. With feedback from residents and early career physiatrists, there are 2 pathways to allow newly graduated residents and fellows to continue their Academy membership at deeply discounted rates. They receive Academy benefits along the way, discounts, a payment plan option, and more, which all leads to a complimentary annual assembly registration once they complete the final pathway. It's a great option to stay connected with 1,500 plus residents and early career physiatrists in the PM&R community and receive valuable resources along the way, all while being rewarded. Plus, in 2021, regional virtual courses for early career physiatrists will be offered as another opportunity to connect.
Education is a fundamental offering that affects PM&R physicians across clinical focuses, practice areas, career stages, and levels of expertise. As part of Academy membership, AAPM&R provides top-notch education and other innovative learning resources across a variety of delivery mechanisms. A combination of online education, virtual courses, and live events keeps our specialty on the cusp of healthcare changes and medical advances, supporting members in their pursuit of ongoing education and preparing them for practice and career advancement. Digital learning. A new exciting offer is an online education subscription which is now available. When you add a subscription to your membership, you receive 24/7 access to online educational resources, including instructional videos, podcasts, case studies, and more. Virtual and in-person learning. A variety of STEP certificate programs are also offered to keep PM&R practitioners at the top of their game, supporting early career physicians and seasoned professionals who want to represent the highest standard in the field. Designed by physiatrists for physiatrists, concussion and mild TBI join the highly regarded ultrasound and spasticity programs with both online and live learning formats in 2021. National Grand Rounds are monthly webinars to connect PM&R physicians of all specializations from across the country for stimulating discussions on topics that represent the intellectual, practical, and/or spiritual aspects of the specialty. To learn more, visit aapmr.org/education.
As the premier physiatry-focused event of the year, the PM&R community came together for the 2020 Virtual Annual Assembly, an online event never experienced before. Members of Team Physiatry are meeting virtually to connect, learn, and grow with their PM&R community. The exchange of information and expertise has never been more critical. Be sure to save the date in your calendar for the 2021 Annual Assembly, November 11th through 14th in Nashville, Tennessee. Additional details will be posted on www.aapmnr.org/assembly.
Thanks to your engagement in 2020, you've helped make our PM&R community special through member communities, advocacy efforts, webinars, virtual committees, and work group meetings, and so much more. Continue showing your PM&R spirit in 2021 by maintaining your Academy membership. I encourage you to visit aapmnr.org/membership to view all your benefits and more. To learn more about our efforts to advance the specialty and the success of each member, visit the full 2020 annual report at aapmnr.org/2020report.
Thank you all. Let me tell you a little bit about what's going to happen next. I'm going to ask about any old business, and if there are questions regarding old business, you'll post them in the Q&A. If there are none, we will move to new business, where we're going to address many of the questions that were posted regarding our stumble regarding the virtual voting. So can I first ask if there is any old business from the floor? We'll move on then to new business. And I'd like to thank you all for keeping us on our toes. I think that we're acknowledging a stumble with our virtual voting because there was no little trigger for me to allow time for questions. And so I apologize, and we would like to invite those of you that had questions before our votes to re-enter those questions. I do want to let you know that the votes were taken and affirmed with only one no vote, but this is the time in new business to enable questions or discussion about the topics we voted on. And those topics were the membership report, the nominating committee recommendations, and the nominating slate. So let me pause to see if there are new questions or discussions in the Q&A. Again, I apologize that we didn't make time for discussion. Additionally, we can be available to meet or connect with you after this meeting. Dr. Merritt did have a comment. I'll read the comment. Dr. Merritt identified that having patient-centered satisfaction, perception of cultural competence, and greater understanding about how to manage their complex conditions when treated by physiatrists versus other specialties might be of interest. And I think you're right. There's a question. This is probably old business by Dr. Gupta. Are nurse practitioners still being allowed to be members of the Academy? Nurse practitioners are members of the Academy with an active physiatrist member who supports their membership and has a collaborative agreement with them. I'd like to give just a few more moments in case people are slow typists like I am. Thank you. I don't see any other new questions or comments. This is a learning experience for all of us. So again, we apologize that we did not have discussion on the issues. Thank you all for your engagement. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Stu Weinstein. Stu is going to be the next president of the Academy. And I will never forget the first time I actually spoke to Stu. I was terrified. I was the chairperson for the Medical Education Committee. He was the editor of the journal, which obviously meant that he was older and smarter than I was. And we were talking about how we would reimagine supplements for the journal. And my recollection is that he actually listened. Stu was passionate about making sure things were done the right way. In all the years we've worked together, this is what I can tell you about Stu. He's passionate. He was passionate about the journal, about its success, and about how it would serve physiatry and physiatrists. But I've learned there are two things that he's even more passionate about. One of them is baseball. I learned about this when we were in Petco Park in San Diego 5 years ago. For a man who really would not talk much about himself, he just wouldn't shut up about baseball. And the other thing he's passionate about is our specialty. He's passionate about you, physiatrists. He's passionate about the success of physiatry and medicine and how we create an inclusive and equitable community. Thank you, Stu, for all you've done and for all you are about to do. And with that,
Okay, Michelle, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me, Michelle?
Yes.
All right. Excellent. Well, Michelle, maybe older, not wiser. And by the way, I think just for the record, I am the only one who got the memo to wear the Team Physiatry t-shirts today. Everyone else in shirt and tie. Oh, well. Michelle, there has not been really an opportunity yet for me to thank you for navigating the board and the membership through a tumultuous year, to say the least, a year we'll never forget until next year. You accepted the many challenges with real class, and we thank you for your optimism, for your energy, and as you said, for challenging us to be uncomfortable. And by the way, your presentation last night was just amazing. So thank you for that. And I also want to really send out a really big thank you to Tom Stoutzenbach and the staff at AAPM&R. Most members really don't get a chance to see them in action, but Tom, you and your team's guidance, fortitude through this year, nothing short of amazing and exemplary. And I know because of that, we are going to come out of 2020 as strong as we possibly can. So thank you from me on behalf of the board, and really on behalf of the entire membership. This is really not meant to be a political statement, but really rather to be a metaphorical point. But we are a country divided, really polarized, but we don't have to be a specialty divided. And the fact is, we are not an homogenous group, never have been, never will be. But it's really our diversity that defines us as a specialty more than any other of the 23 specialties in this country. We offer something for everybody, and that is why everybody seeks us out. So we need to really embrace that. We actually have something in common, something that I've talked about, something I've written about, and that is that we really can withstand and accept intolerance and uncertainty. And the uncertainty about diagnosis, the uncertainty about treatment, the uncertainty about outcome, how we measure success. It's this tolerance for uncertainty that really defines us. And so we need to really embrace it and stay committed together. "2021 is going to be another year of angst and uncertainty for us, for our members, for their personal health, their welfare, their jobs, for their families, for our membership, to keep our membership going. We know there's uncertainties. For the Academy to produce educational courses, to hold meetings. We're hopeful a year from now we'll be in Nashville, that we won't be doing this exclusively virtually, although I think virtual is probably here to stay to some degree. And as Michelle said, and as Tom said, we may have to look at reprioritizing our goals and projects for 2021 based on finances. But I will say this, with threats come opportunities. And the one thing that I have seen this year more than any of the many years I've worked at the Academy is the interaction between the volunteer members and the Academy staff working closer than ever to get things done. The camaraderie has been nothing short of amazing. We've reacted to our environment. We've also actively planned for the future to have all the wins that you've heard about in that video. And we are certainly hoping for a lot more wins in 2021. All along maintaining our mission to advance physiatry's impact throughout healthcare. So that said, these are the goals that I would propose for 2021 for our Academy. 1, to solidify the Academy membership. This is a time for cohesion, not for division. Remain committed to and proud of our specialty's contribution to medicine. We have many stakeholders that we have to demonstrate our value to. We need to engage them and continue to demonstrate what we do for the world of medicine in this country. We need to embrace new diagnostic and therapeutic technologies. I firmly believe that physiatrists need to be innovative on all fronts, but being innovative, we still have to obey science and the evidence. If we don't do that, we are going to be chopped off the block. We have to prove what we do, be innovative, but demonstrate the value and the proof in it. And I will say this, I'm asking all the members to trust the process. Trust that your Board of Governors is evolving. It's evolving to be more representative of you, to listen to you, to advocate for you, and to help guide you in the future, both next year and the years to come. I'm committed to work with this board, to work with the leadership, to work with the members, to find ways for us to come out as strong as possible after this pandemic and for years to come. And with that, I do hope next year in Nashville, I get to meet all of you, as many as I can, hopefully shake your hands next year and really embrace and enjoy what we've accomplished in 2021. Now, Michelle, I know you've handed off the medal, but understand that you are still president for 2 more days. So I'm going to pass this on back to you, and it's all yours, 48 more hours. Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the meeting this weekend and whenever else you're going to listen to all of the content. Enjoy, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you all in person as soon as is safe. Thank you all.